Hello, my name is Mike. I'm a director of the Bristol and Somerset Locomotive Company Limited. We are the owners of Andrew Barclay 2157, which the boiler is behind me here. A little bit of history on the locomotive. She was built in 1943 after being ordered by the Ministry of Supply. She was built to shunt ammunition wagons around ammunition factories, and then come 1946 she was retired from shunting wagons at ammunition factories and then went over to shunting coal wagons for the National Coal Board. Come 1972, after many years shunting more wagons around, she was then retired in 1972 and then later went for scrap in 1977, where she went to Thomas Myers Scrapyard, which is a very famous and well-known scrapyard for a lot of these Andrew Barclay locomotives. The locomotive later was then purchased by a load of supporters from the Man Gaps Railway in preservation times, where the engine went to the Man Gaps and then was restored to work in order. Without those, the individuals at the time in saving the engine from the colliery, the engine certainly wouldn't be here. And that's where the engine is now. You know, come 2023, the engine is here at the Swindon Cricklade Railway. We are now the new owners of the engine, and we have got a big task on our hands to restore the engine to work in order. And we're going to pass you over now to Sam, one of our other directors, who's going to talk you through a lot of the work that's involved.
My name is Sam White. I'm a director of the Bristol and Somerset Locomotive Company Limited. This is Andrew Barclay number 2157. As you can see, the boiler has been removed, and we're in the process of removing all of the valve gear and all the motion from the engine at the moment. The boiler will take you to see that shortly, because that's up at our site in Blunsdon, which is the main station site for the Swindon and Cricklade Railway. Generally speaking, the engine isn't in too bad of a condition. It needs the general sort of things that you'd expect after 10 years of running. This was originally one of the locomotives out of Thomas Muir, and it's a bit interesting in that it was a War Department engine, and as such, it's not quite so heavily built as other Andrew Barclays. So things are a bit, need a bit more attention when they do go wrong. The state of play at the minute is a lot of the valve gear is going to need to be remachined. We're going to do some modifications to change the running surfaces and how it's lubricated. The Smokebox saddle has actually got some relatively serious cracking in it, so that's going to have to be addressed before we put the boiler back on. So we're going to have to probably look at getting that metal stitched to rectify that. Beyond that, it's just a heavy general repaint, strip everything down and measure everything, assess the condition, sort of take it from there at that point. Okay, so we've hopped up onto the into the frames of 2157 here, so you can see the Smokebox saddle and give you a better idea of the sort of things we're up against. You should be able to see here, we've got a rather large crack going on here, which we believe has happened in service, and there's a reinforcing plate that's been put on here, and we believe that was done by the coal board when it was in coal board service near the latter end of its life. It's also got cracking here, which again has got a doubling plate on the back end. That would be fine, but in addition to that, we've now got a new crack forming along here, which is a bit more of an issue because that's not reinforced, which means that we are going to have to do some rather serious repairs to the Smokebox saddle because we don't really want to have to take it out if we can help it. So we're going to look at getting it metal stitched or potentially cast iron welded, whichever ends up being the more practical solution, really. Okay, so we've now moved back here to the the guts of the engine, as it were. As you can see, we've removed the right-hand side of the valve gear. This is a Stephenson's link motion, and we're in the process of removing the left-hand side. That's we removed the rising linkage that connects the expansion link to the counterweights. All that's left now is to unbolt the eccentric straps and remove the last of the pins that are holding the eccentric rods to the expansion link, and then that can all come out. Once that's done, we've got to remove the counterbalance shaft, remove the slide valves, and then after that will be to remove the pistons. That's going to involve assessing the state that the steam chest is in, the valve chest, measuring the bores, checking the liners of the cylinders, and repairing whatever needs doing as is necessary, really. Once that's all been removed, the plan is then to lift the chassis off of its wheels, and that will give us access to the axle boxes and the journals, and we can assess what condition they're in and decide what course of action we need to take if anything needs machining. Crank pins do have a significant amount of pitting, so we are potentially going to explore jacking the crank pins out and machining those in-house, as it would be a lot easier than having to remove the wheel sets and send them off. Once that's done, that'll be about as stripped down as the engine needs to be for the overhaul, and then we can set about the task of repairing everything, machining what needs machining, and then start reassembling everything and painting everything. So when it comes to the machining, although this is an industrial engine and it is a steam engine, surprisingly enough, actually, the tolerances that a lot of this stuff is manufactured to is a very fine tolerance. For example, the eccentric straps and the pins that we see here, so just looks like just a big round block of metal. These go through the rods and secure them to the expansion link. The tolerance on those holes is actually only about 6 thou, which is 6 1,000ths of an inch, which equates to in the regions of about 0.01 of a millimeter. So we do really have to have the engine pretty much spot on to actually run efficiently and run correctly as it should do. So that sums up everything that is required with the bottom end of the locomotive and the frames, and we will now take you to have a look at the boiler and see what repairs need doing to that. So this is the boiler for 2157. As you can see in here, we've removed the boiler tubes. I'm happy to say that the front tube plate is actually in really good condition. It's really thick still. That should go again. That should be not a problem. All happy days with that. We are going to need a new door ring because that is quite heavily corroded, and we will need a new door iron because, as you can see, it's not great. The importance of the door ring is the reason that it needs to be in good condition is because that creates a relatively airtight seal, and it stops any cold blast from coming through the gap and contacting the front tube plate. Because there's a risk when doing that it could actually cause the tube plate to contract, and then you could end up with tubes leaking or bursting, various other issues that you don't really want to have when you're trying to operate a steam boiler. The door should be okay. It's had a few patches on it, but we're not too worried about that. The front of the barrel looks to be relatively thick. That's, again, shouldn't be an issue. The majority of the issues that we currently identified are with the firebox end, and I'll show you those now. So this is the firebox on 2157. This is the throat plate section here, this particular panel, and as you can see there's a section that has previously been removed. This is because vertical cracking was identified running down through the stay holes, and this is going to necessitate the removal of the whole flash section of the throat plate and a new piece to be welded in. Moving along here, as you can see there's a section that's previously been welded in. We believe this was a cold bore repair. The problem with these, with all steam locomotive type boilers, is they're prone to grooving around the bottom of the plate, around the foundation ring, which is inside this row of rivets here. And it basically forms, as the name suggests, the foundation of the boiler. So that's going to require us to cut this section off along this weld line and replace that panel, and that will rectify that issue. If you come around to the back of the boiler, I will go through the issues that we have here as well. So this is the backhead section. This is the flight control station, as you could call it. These are washout plugs. This is just a means of so you can wash out the boiler. Basically, after you've steamed it sort of around 12-15 times, you need to give the boiler a wash out just to get any gunk out of the boiler that can build up and cause overheating on the firebox, on the inner firebox. We do have some issues with the backhead here. This is what this section is called. It's the backhead because it's the back of the boiler. We've got vertical cracking running through this row of stays, extending down to about here, and on this side as well, and to about here. Again, much like the throat plate, it's an issue which is it's a common issue that you find with Andrew Barclay boilers, and that's going to necessitate the likely removal of an oval patch extending down around the stay holes. That'll then be welded in and re-drilled and restayed. We do have a slight issue with the inner firebox. It's copper on this, and we believe it's NCB have put it in. As far as we know, it's not been replaced in preservation. We've got some cracking around the door ring rivets, which is this row of rivets here. The cracking's on the inside. We believe that's due to the fact that we don't believe there was a baffle plate used on this engine, and as a result, as cold air has gone into the firebox, it's cooled down the door ring, and that's resulted in cracking. The copper on the outside of the rivets is just contracted and just splayed outwards, basically. So we need to identify when we have the boiler non-destructive tested the grade of the copper, If it's grade C107, we can weld it, which would be the ideal scenario. If it's grade C105, then we will have to put a door patch in. The difference between C107 and C105 being that C107 has arsenic in it, which allows copper to be more ductile. C105 doesn't. It also means that due to the difference in the chemical elements in the copper, you can't weld C105, which is a bit of a problem. Other than that, so far as we know, that is all the issues that we have with the boiler. I say all the issues, it is still a reasonable number of issues. The estimate at the minute is we require in the regions of 15 to 20,000 to sort out the boiler and the issues that we know that we have with the chassis as it currently sits. But obviously everything is subject to an NDT and subject to the boiler inspector coming and telling us what he requires us to do.
So there we have it. We have a lot of work to undertake as a company to restore our engine to work in order. There are many ways that you can get involved. You can join us as a volunteer here at the Swindon Cricklade Railway and actually get hands-on with working on the engine, learning new skills and helping get our engine steaming again. There are other ways you can get involved for those people who can't attend in person and get involved here at the railway. You can make purchases via our website. We have fundraising schemes via our website, including the boiler appeal, which is currently live, and we're raising funds to get our boiler in steamable condition. Whilst on the subject of our online shop, here is some of the stuff you can buy from us. Now over to our lovely Sam, who's perfectly our model, displaying one of our t-shirts. Oh, thank you. A mug, given a mug. We have replica builder's plates, taken actually from the builder's plate of the engine. We have mugs here with pictures of the engine and some very choice words on it, including "I'm a mug." We also have t-shirts, beanies, polo shirts and more. And all that can be found on our website, and you can purchase that, sent to you, collect in person. We're easy. We'll do whatever works for you. We hope you'll get involved. Hopefully you'll be able to support us in restoring our engine into steam, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.